Welcome to rSlash Askreddit, where we answer the question, what's the strangest thing that happened to you that you can't logically explain? Our first reply is from Randy Moss. When I was in college, a drunk dude fell from a third-floor balcony and got up and walked away like it was nothing. Seriously, it was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. And then beneath that Bring on the Mush explains, there's kind of an explanation for this. If you were to completely relax your body, then when you fall, the force would be distributed more evenly, thus minimizing damage. This is why some babies can survive falling from pretty big heights, but as we get older, most of us tense up naturally. Because he was drunk, it was possible he was super relaxed to the point where he had no tension, thus allowing him to do what I explained. And then beneath that musical bacon replies, yeah, I once read a news article about a guy in Russia who drank 2 bottles of vodka and jumped out of a 2-story building, got taken back to his apartment, and then did it again. He lived and didn't get hurt. Our next reply is from Cabernet Penguin. I had recently watched an early episode of Criminal Minds where an arsonist would lock people in their homes before lighting their house on fire. For whatever reason, it kinda got to me. A night or two later, I woke up out of a dead sleep and I couldn't get that episode out of my mind, so I finally decided to just get up and check the front door. I swear, I couldn't open the door. I unlocked it, but it was totally stuck. I woke up my husband because I was so freaked out. He also tried and couldn't get the door open, and he's a big guy. I ended up climbing out a window so I could push the door from the outside while he pulled from the inside. We finally got it open. I didn't watch Criminal Minds for long after that. Yeah, same OP. I had a pretty similar experience with Criminal Minds. My wife really loves horror and psychological thrillers, but I just don't. It's not that I'm squeamish or anything, it's just I don't get it. Why would anyone want to sit around and watch people get murdered and tortured and like ghosts and people having their skin flayed off? It's just unpleasant. Anyways, my wife convinced me to watch Criminal Minds with her and we binged like a full season of it, and by the end of it, I was just like depressed. Every person I saw on the street, I just assumed they were some murderer. I kept having these really dark, pessimistic, cynical thoughts, and I just had to quit the show. So I totally get it, OP. Luckily, I didn't have any weird encounters with like my door not opening or people staring in through my window or something creepy like that, but Criminal Minds is just too much. Our next reply is from that weird girl. I hit a patch of black ice in the dark going 60 miles per hour down the highway. At the time, I drove a 1-ton cargo van. The van hit the guardrail and flipped. Not only did I walk away without a scratch, the car was drivable, and I was only 30 minutes late to work. OP, that's a cool story and I'm really glad that you came out of it okay, but what I want to know is what happened when you got to work and had that conversation with your manager? Yeah, boss, I'm really sorry that I'm 30 minutes late to work, but, you see, I flipped my car over. Yep, full 360 degrees, like a barrel roll. No, I don't have any injuries, and yeah, the car is still drivable. So, yeah, please don't fire me? Our next reply is from Al Sunflower. Both of my lungs collapsed at the same time, and I was walking around like I was perfectly normal. That is, until I decided to go to the ER for bubble sounds in my chest. None of the doctors could figure out why this happened to me. They didn't know how. I was just up and walking around and laughing. Our next reply is from Wicked Pixel. I used to fence, the sport, not stolen goods. I was at a tournament and I had just started a fight against a competitor. You win the bout by being the first to 5 points. I score what I believe to be the first point, but the official indicates the match is over and I've won. I stood there confused for a second, but my opponent seems to agree and salutes and approaches for a handshake, so I go along with it. I check the scorecard and it says that I've won 5-2. I completely lost the last 4 to 5 minutes of my memory. This hasn't happened since, to the best of my knowledge, but it's been 20 years and I still wonder what happened. OP, it sounds like you might be an anime protagonist. As soon as I touched the sword, I blacked out and went into a demon rage. And I didn't regain consciousness until all of my opponents were defeated. Our next reply is from Eaton Beef. I'm a firefighter, and we got a call for an overdose around 3 a.m. to a rough part of our district in the middle of winter. Unfortunately, the patient was long gone, and her dealer or whoever just found her like that. As we're packing up her stuff, mind you, this is an absolutely trash mobile home. I hear something down the hall that said, "Lights?" I asked my partner if he said anything, as it was just him and I cleaning up, and he said no. I walked to the far end of the trailer where I heard it and shined my flashlight, and I see something reflecting out of the window. They have a small tool shed and it had a flickering light. It piqued my interest, so my partner and I go out there. We hear crying and notice the door is padlocked. We cut it, and this little 6-year-old girl was in there. She said her mom puts her in there when she gets mad at her. She said she got scared when she heard the sirens and didn't know what to do. To this day, I have no idea what happened or where the voice came from, but I'll take the win on it. Afterwards, my partner and I took her to the children's hospital closest to us and we wrote our report and ate chips and a sandwich we took from the lounge while we called a social worker. She was a really sweet girl. The voice that I heard was not a little girl voice. I 100% thought it was my partner since it sounded like a guy. Oh my god, so this mom, I guess, locks her 6-year-old girl in the tool shed whenever she does drugs. She overdosed, died, and if OP hadn't found this 6-year-old girl in the shed, then I guess she would have just starved to death? Wow, that's dark. Our next reply is from U2 Spyplane. Time slipped by my friend and I one day. We had a contract in another town and drove out daily for 2 weeks. It took 1 hour to get there and 1 hour back, but one day it took us 3 hours to get back home instead of 1 hour. My friend realized something was wrong when his wife called him up asking why he turned his phone off and why he was so late. We left a little before 2 p.m. and the call came almost at 5 p.m. To this day, we can't explain it, and to further complicate matters, we both have receipts from a gas station we stopped at just before we got on the highway that are timestamped a little bit after 2 p.m. My theory is that aliens took us for 2 hours, but who the hell knows? And then beneath that, we have a similar story from Garbage Goat. I had that happen once. I worked at a coffee shop and lived a few blocks away, so I normally just walk to work. It takes no more than 10 to 15 minutes tops, and I like to get there early so I can chill and have a coffee before my shift starts, so I left home 45 minutes early. I looked at the clock before heading out and it was 2 p.m. I walked in the coffee shop to my manager asking me why the hell I was late. I looked at the clock and it was 3. There's no way it's even humanly possible to turn a 10-minute, 5-block walk into an hour-long walk. Like, I have no idea. I even checked my clocks at home after work, and none were off or broken, and it's never happened again. Our next reply is from Gandalf Rex. I was driving across the US and drove into Salt Lake City. For whatever reason, I was craving IHOP, so I punched it into Google Maps and followed the directions to a spot in the middle of town. I walk in, and the place is empty. I don't mean like there were no customers, I mean there is literally not a single person in the whole place. No waitstaff, no customers, no cooks, nobody. There was partially eaten food on the tables, bags and purses in the booths, TVs on everywhere, burgers on the grill slowly burning. And there wasn't a soul in the place, like they all just vanished at once. I was so freaked out I hopped in my car and drove until I hit the Nevada border before stopping to eat. I still have no idea what the F happened. And to those asking, this happened on June 3rd, 2017 at approximately 4 p.m. I stayed around 5 to 10 minutes before booking it. I thought it might have been a robbery too, but I figured what robber holds up an IHOP and leaves the purses untouched? Like I said, I can't explain it. Our next Reddit post is from Cryptolution. I was just a 6-year-old kid deciding what to do after school when I was in my grandparents' living room. I saw a red flash shoot out of the wall and go from that side to the other wall and into it. A second later, a big earthquake hit. I saw some sort of visual shockwave from the earthquake. And no, it wasn't those weird lightning ball things. In my childish mind, I thought that I saw Flash, the comic book character, run through the room. Our next reply is from Mr. Vinek. So this still baffles me, but when I was a kid we'd moved into a new house, and while the realtor was showing us around the house, I saw a lady sitting in a white dresser in a pink room. And she even waved at me, but when I asked my mom who that was, she just brushed me off because she was trying to listen to the realtor. The weird thing is that there were no rooms painted pink in that house, and my family just played it off despite me being adamant of what I saw. Anyway, fast forward a few years and I'm in high school at this point, and we start renovating the house. And while stripping the wallpaper in the master bedroom, we found out it was painted pink at some point. It still low-key freaks me out. Beneath that, we have this story from Meowdith. When my sister was a toddler, she used to cry because a blue-faced man in dirty jean overalls used to scare her around our property. It got to the point where my mother was convinced that a molester was stalking her, so she went to the police. After some research in the invention of the internet, my mom discovered that our house sat on the property of an old rancher who had hung himself in the barn because of some legal battle over his land and farm. We're convinced this guy was haunting her. Our next reply is from Gao Beiyao. So, one night I had a dream that I was working out in the gym that I regularly go to. In the dream, I was in the normal spot where I work out, exercising, when all of a sudden the lights in the gym go out. All the TV screens go off. I can't see anything, but in the dream, it feels like some sort of smoke is filling up the gym and I can hear and barely see people panicking running to the exit. It feels like maybe it's a terrorist attack. I start running, trying to get to the exit, and it's getting harder and harder to breathe. Just as I'm kind of hyperventilating and succumbing to the toxic smoke, I jolt awake. Very intense dream that stuck with me. A week later, in real, actual life, I'm working out in the gym, and boom, the lights and TV screens go out. It was an incredibly surreal moment where I actually thought that I was dreaming again. I stood there stunned for a moment before realizing that the power just went out due to a thunderstorm. It came back on about 5 minutes later. I told a gym employee nearby that I dreamt about this, and she laughed politely and probably thought that I was insane. Really strange. Our next reply is from Barrington. My dad owned a small garden shop, so I'd stay behind the checkout after school until the shop closed. One day, I see a tall man wearing all black, like a trench coat, walking past my dad and smiling at me before going off to the staff-only area. I jump up to stop him, even though I was only 7. The back area is filled with new shipments. I turn the corner, but nobody's there. There was nowhere that he could have gone. I asked my dad to check the CCTV after closing, but it only shows me jumping up and running out of frame. Weird stuff, and I never felt comfortable there again. Our next reply is from Special Custard. I was driving with my hubby and I see a bunch of bikers having a cookout. Out of the blue, and I don't know why, I said, people look down on bikers, but I bet if the house across the street catches fire, these men would run into it and save the little old lady, and I pointed to the house. This was the first time that I'd ever driven down that street. We had just moved to the neighborhood. That night at 2 a.m., the house that I pointed to burned down and an elderly woman died. And beneath that, Mimiotional says, douchebag bikers, they probably just continued grilling. Our next reply is from Stupid Dickface. When I was about 18, I worked at a grocery store, and one day this young man entered, and I kid you not, he looked exactly like me. Like, weirdly way too much alike. This guy was wearing the same outfit as me. Khakis, a blue polo, and a brown coat, though his coat was a little bit darker. When this guy met my gaze, we just kind of eye-locked at every opportunity we could throughout the store, both of us wearing this stupid, perplexed look on our faces. The only difference I could tell was that this person was a little bit older than I was and he had a goatee. I assumed that he was my evil twin. He left the store after buying his stuff and life went on, but it doesn't end there. The next day, a strange woman approached me saying, OP, why are you here? I turn around to see someone I don't know and say, how do you know my name? Do you know me? She says, oh my gosh, I thought you were my son, OP. You look exactly like him. The dude even shares my frickin' name. This is so weird. I confirmed with the lady that her son did come in the day before and he was home temporarily from college. So I continued to ask her about her son since we look identical, and she told me his age. He's 2 years older and where he grew up, the town over. And he has 2 older brothers and a younger sister. I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister. I asked this woman's name and, of course, oh, my name is Karen, nice to meet you. My mother's name is Karen. I didn't probe any further, but I'm not even sure I want to know how far down the alternate universe me went. It was just so unbelievably strange, the circumstances overall. But the weirdest thing by far, and what stuck with me the most, is that weird feeling I had when me and that other guy were staring at each other. I assume that he felt this too by the look on his face. It was a feeling that I can really only describe as knowing that the other person I'm looking at is me somehow. I don't know, I can't explain it fully. I wonder if identical twins feel the same stuff. Our next reply is from Pepper Reddits. When I was a kid, I slept with my bedroom door open because my cat likes to cuddle me. Our hallway was just a round hallway, and I could see my bathroom door and my parents' bedroom door. It was dark, but it was still in view. I also slept with my lights only dimmed. One night, I can't sleep for some reason. For some reason, I call out for my mom, and I see her standing near my doorway, kind of turned away from me with her hand on her face and her hair draping. I know it's her, because she slept in a big purple t-shirt that night, but she's completely still. Mind you, I'm wide freaking awake. I might have been watching TV before this, 3 a.m. Disney Channel probably. When I call out to her, she doesn't move at all. I blink, and she's gone. I start freaking out and calling out to her for real, and that's when I hear their door open and close and my mom rushes to my aid. I think she either slept with me all night or I stayed up all night watching TV to pacify myself. I started sleeping with my door closed after that, and I don't look too carefully in darkness. That was rSlash and if you like this content, check out my Patreon where I publish extra episodes. Also hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.